Hey everybody, welcome back to another 10-minute Marvel video. Second one today. We had the Fantastic Four trailer video in the morning. Check that out if you haven't already. But I want to talk about all 3 episodes of Ironheart that dropped this week. And honestly, well, we're going to do the normal thing here. Non-spoiler thoughts, then spoilers, and the spoilers will be talking about details of the episodes, but also where things can go from here. So, non-spoiler thoughts, and honestly, I'm enjoying this show. I thought the first episode was fine. The first episode is a whole bunch of setup. This is kind of what I felt like it was like. But as we started to jump more into the story and really tackle everything that's going on and open up some of the mysteries of the show, it got better. And episode 3 hits really well. Like, it is a very good episode of Marvel television. It's up there with some of the better episodes of some of the best Marvel shows. Is the whole show there yet at that point? No. I think it's been a mixed bag at times. But I think a lot of the concerns that I potentially had, because of the fact it was so delayed, are gone away at this point. Even if the show just keeps doing what it's doing, it's going to be a very fun show. I will also say, I think watching the episodes, I understand dropping 3 of them at once. And at that point in time, why not do the same thing again next week? Because it builds. And I think if they dropped even 2 episodes maybe would have been enough to really start to get people invested. But I think they needed the 3rd episode on there to have people really get invested in it. And I mean, like I said, it worked for me. So those are just my non-spoiler thoughts. Probably followed up by, if you're somebody who's maybe hasn't thought about watching Ironheart because it was delayed or because of the attitude of people online around the show, but the concept interests you, I would say it's definitely worth checking out. It delivers on what I hoped it would. So now we're going to move into spoiler talk. Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. You have been warned. Spoilers. So, spoiler time. This show, I think, hits off really in the right way. It hits with Riri being kicked out of MIT. She's been kicked out of MIT because she's not really studying and doing her classes. She's doing interesting work and has grants, or has had grants to do very interesting work, kind of building on Tony Stark's idea of a suit of armor to protect the world. But she has kind of a smaller reason for doing that, in that her stepdad Gary and her friend Natalie were killed in a drive-by shooting. And she thinks that if that suit of armor had existed for law enforcement to use, that they'd be able to be saved. But she's helping students from other colleges, and I think including her own, basically cheat on programs because she's the one who's smart enough to get them a really good grade. And that gets her kicked out when she gets caught with that, combined with the fact that she hasn't really been doing what she's supposed to. And that, to me, is a great kind of kicking off point. because it kicks off not only kind of her relationship with her stepfather, with Natalie, and why it leads into that, but it also kicks off, I would say, this idea that now that she has tasted how awesome things can be with Wakandan technology and vibranium. Excuse me, coffee is running out. That now instead she's having to do it on her own. She, even with the grant, it isn't the same. She isn't able to really recreate the exact same results that she had in Wakanda, which is what she really wants to do. And so I think it's a very important element of this story to have everything stripped away from her. And for her really to feel like she is alone. She has isolated herself after Gary and Natalie's deaths. And that's what you need. That's what you need for good character development, because you're basically saying, hey, we're taking this character, we're breaking it apart, and then we're building it back up. I mean, much like the line from, turns out, episode 3, where she tells Ezekiel Stain, Joe, about what her dad used to say, and he kind of tosses it back at her. Like, hey, you have to do that to understand who you really are, because you're messing with people who you don't know who they are, what they are. You don't know what the hood is. And I really like that piece for it, because I mean, when we've talked about the show before, that's what I've wanted. I've wanted it to be, and what Marvel shows that have a character, generally character name in the title, it's a really interesting look at that character and character development for that character. I think the one that stands out with a character name in the show that didn't necessarily do that is Hawkeye. Falcon and Winter Soldier, I would say as well, but that was an ensemble or a duo that they were trying to do stuff with. And I think those characters were also better established. But this one really focuses in on the character you want it to focus in on. And that's Riri. Then, I'm not going to break down like everything. I'm going to break down the things that I think kind of matter to this story. Ezekiel Stain, for example, matters to this story. Ezekiel Stain is the son of Obadiah Stane, Ironmonger. Nice callback to Iron Man 1 there. I think it works well to do that. And he is trying to avoid following in his father's footsteps. He doesn't want to become the Ironmonger. He doesn't want to become a villain. And I really like that element of the storyline too, because you have two different characters who have to figure out how they interact with their dead parents, step parent in the case of Riri, and how it's either holding them back or kind of driving them forward. So that was a fun element to it, and I enjoyed that reference as well as the Stewart Rampage reference. Stewart was a fun character. It's a shame we didn't get more time with him, but also it makes sense why he was dealt with the way he was in this show. And Stewart Rampage, he is a character in Marvel Comics, but you probably haven't heard of him. I had to look him up. And yeah, not, in my opinion, a character that they needed to keep around. But let's talk about then the Hood, because we started to get the tease of the Hood and the Hood's powers. And we really got to see those powers in play in episode 3, where they're taking down another businessman. I don't necessarily know that this one is corrupt. I think they have reasons why they dislike all the businessmen, the Hood and his gang. But it's not really a situation where this one is necessarily corrupt. It's a situation of control, power, and the gang trying to get their own money. And to see the powers in action, I think it worked well. I'm excited to see potentially more bending of bullets and kind of that element of the Hood. They set it up so that Anthony Ramos, who's the actor in the role, would have a chance to have kind of a more physical scene here. And I think that that worked well and was enjoyable. And there's so much. I feel like I believe Bad Magic is episode 4. So I think episode 4 is really going to deal with the Hood's powers and Riri figuring them out. And in particular, we got a tease of whoever is behind the Hood at the end of this episode. After Parker Robin's friend John dies, really at the hands of Riri in a lot of ways. I mean, yes, he suffocates in the greenhouse, but it's a situation where Riri had a choice. She had a chance to save him. Honestly, if she had saved him, it wouldn't have gone well for her, but she could have done that. And that might have then given her a possibility to fix some of her other mistakes, because now she's unfortunately drawn Ezekiel Stain into the mess that she's in by losing his piece of technology, which apparently can be traced back to him. Considering he bought it on the black market, I'm like, how much? But it's very possible it just has his fingerprint on it or something like that, which again, could probably have dealt with that, but who knows how well. So let's talk about going forward here. I really hit on a bunch of things that I like. Zay, her friend, Natalie's... Oh, I should talk a little bit about Natalie, too. I think Natalie's a fun character, especially for the AI character. It's interesting to see Riri struggling so much with the AI. Not like struggling in a way that, oh, she can't make it work. She created a brilliant AI, copied her memories of her friend, and kind of gave her something to bounce off of. But she's struggling with it because, yeah, it is a memory of her friend who died, and she can't really accept the fact that this is an AI based around her memories of Natalie. So Natalie, of course, is going to kind of hang out, like, especially with the memories as they exist now. There's some sadness to those memories, but the AI has really extrapolated and built upon all the fun memories, which I think is a good thing, because again, Riri needs those characters to help balance her out, and I think Ezekiel Stain is a really good one for that, and Natalie is a really good one for that. And they're people, or in the case of Ezekiel, he's somebody who wasn't in her life at the time of her stepfather's passing, that drive-by shooting. And Natalie is kind of the need to confront that. So I like that. So where do I think it goes from here? First off, I think Bad Magic, like I said, I'm pretty sure is episode 5. I fully expect this to delve into the Hood's powers, and what the plan is. Like, what what has the Hood been required to do to keep and maintain his powers? I really think we're going to get Mephisto, or at least, if it's not necessarily Mephisto, though I think it will be, some demon, Chthon maybe, showing up here, because, I mean, we definitely saw a physical presence at the end of episode 3. So that's, to me, is going to make a lot of sense. And I think there's going to be some connection. There's going to be something that is revealed between the seemingly random drive-by shooting and the creation of the Hood. Now, I don't think it's necessarily, and I really don't think it's that the Hood is the one who is responsible for the shooting. I think it's more likely that this has been a long plan. This has been a long game. And Mephisto, or whoever the devil is, has been working towards this path, giving people what they want to lead in this direction. And that's kind of exciting. So then after that, I think it means that things move forward, and move forward more quickly than expected for the major heist. Whatever the thing is that Mephisto is after, whomever is after, and it could be that Mephisto is somehow not fully released or something like that, and that's what the whole point of like the Hood's work and the gang is to do, is to set Mephisto free, which would be pretty awesome. I think that would be a great, like, hey, yeah, this is definitely going to be leading into the Midnight Suns. So I'm going to be curious to see how what kind of that event is. It's the nice kind of what I call a MacGuffin, that thing that needs to happen, and might not fully happen, or might get the hint of, I don't know, something else in there. But I think the big thing will be that Riri is going to have to figure out how to use the magic from the Hood to infuse it into her suit. That feels like where we're going with it, and honestly, now that does make it feel like a bit more of a bummer that was revealed, because it seems like it's going to be a positive thing. I think if it had been a negative thing at the end of these 3 episodes, where, yeah, magic was put into her suit and now she doesn't have full control over Natalie and her suit anymore, I think that would have been a better thing to reveal in a trailer. That said, I don't mind. I'm, especially for only 2 weeks and 6 episodes, I think that it works. It's worked well. So those are just kind of my thoughts. And obviously then, I think kind of the point of the series will be Riri breaking herself down and building herself back up again, and coming to terms with the deaths of Natalie and of Gary, and basically saying, like, yes, they have happened, but there are people out there who are bad and who would misuse these suits. I can be a hero, but that doesn't mean that I have to give it all away. I'm going to be curious to see what they do with it. I don't think she gets back into MIT. I'm not 100% convinced that they'll have Kamala reach out to her at the end of the series to continue building the Champions team. I could see that, but I don't know, this feels like it's going to be separate, and that she needs her time to really have and continue to develop as a hero. But maybe it'll be fast enough. I mean, we didn't spend a ton of time with Kate Bishop getting recruited. So, those are just kind of my thoughts, kind of some of the spoiler stuff and where things could go. I will say, I do almost feel like it's a little bit of a shame that I won't have as much time to speculate on stuff. But obviously, we will be talking about this on the 10 Minute Marvel podcast coming up this upcoming week, as well as that Fantastic Four trailer that dropped. And if you enjoy this content, please give the video a thumbs up. As I always say, drop a comment down below what you think about this show. With this show, which has had kind of a divisive online experience, just a reminder that here at 10 Minute Marvel, we are open and interested and always ready to engage in good discussion and conversations about shows. People don't have to have the same opinion that I do about this show. And I know from reviewers that they don't. But what we're not going to allow on the channel is name calling, disparaging remarks about actors, ethnicities, whatever it might be. We're interested in having real discussion and real conversations. So that's just a reminder with that. And if you want to check out the podcast and check out the podcast episodes when they come out, you can, or even just to hear kind of our preview thoughts and guesses on Ironheart, you can find that here on YouTube. Click onto the channel, subscribe, and click that notification bell if you haven't already to know when new videos like this come out and the new podcast episodes come out. And then check out the podcast tab, or you can search for 10 Minute Marvel wherever you get your friendly neighborhood podcast from. But with that, we'll see you next time.